distinct groups. Those that hadn't taken the Lord's Supper would go there first. At the appropriate time at 6:45, a long bell will ring, reminds you that you've got 5 minutes, guys, to wrap up. And then after that, another bell or two, and everybody comes to the fellowship room to close things out. Remember that a lot of our focus in this is a study from God's Word, our serving together, but it's fellowship, it's community, it's getting to know one another. So make that a part of what's happening in your groups and what you're doing. Once in a while, you find things maybe not going quite as well at home as they normally should be. No show of hands, but it does happen on occasion. And in some households I've talked with people about, it seems like things get quiet. Sometimes it's the opposite, there's yelling or whatever, but somehow it comes down to being quiet. Maybe not tiptoeing around, but not much is said because you're afraid you might say something wrong if you speak out. It might be mistaken another way, and you're just guarded, maybe a bit angry too. So it gets quiet. And that quiet sometimes represents, I'm tired of talking because nobody's listening. And I think that's the occasion in 1 Samuel chapter 3. As we're beginning this little piece, there's a young boy that's been dropped off at the temple to live the rest of his life by his mother. Not that she didn't want him. She wanted him desperately. And she'd been praying for years to have a child. And finally just laid down and said, Lord, if you'll just give me one, I'll give him back to you. And so this is little Samuel that gets dropped off. In addition to that, think about this, moms and dads, that the guy that's going to be caring for him is a priest named Eli. And the sons that he have are known to be wicked among a lot of the people in the area, God's people. And so you're taking little Samuel and you're turning him over to the guy that doesn't know how to be a good parent. And he's the only child you've got. It's the one you've been wanting all your life. And yet, out of all of this, you know that you prayed for it and you promised God you would do this. And now as you're giving him over, you're trusting God to take care of it. That's an amazing confidence and devotion and commitment that little girl Hannah, or woman had, Hannah. And so here's little boy Samuel, chapter 3, verse 1 of 1 Samuel, who's ministering before the Lord under Eli. And in those days, the word of the Lord was rare. There were not many visions. God says, I'm tired of talking. That's my take on it. Nobody's listening. Certainly the priests' sons, who were priests themselves, they weren't listening. When it got down to sacrificing time, instead of them doing what they were supposed to do, they were taking the best of the sacrifice for themselves and not giving it to God. And that was an accursed thing for anyone to do, especially a priest, God's leaders. And so God's backing up, arms folded and saying, tired of it. Eli, I don't know if he just couldn't take care of it or didn't. Nothing really said in that direction. But God's bothered by it all. One night, verse 2 says, Eli, whose eyes were becoming so weak that he could barely see, was lying down in his usual place. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, and Samuel was lying down in the temple of the Lord, where the ark of God was. Then the Lord called Samuel, and Samuel answered, Here I am. And he ran to Eli. Of course, he's hearing a voice. So he ran to Eli and he said, Here I am. You called me? But Eli said, I didn't call you. Go back and lay down. You might answer, put a little bit, boy. You're having dreams. So he went and lay down. Verse 6, and again the Lord called Samuel. Samuel got up and he went to Eli and he said, Here I am. You called me. My son Eli said, I did not call. Go back and lay down. Like, you're bothering me. Would you go to bed? Now Samuel did not know yet that it was the Lord. The word of the Lord had not been revealed to him. Verse 8, and the Lord called to Samuel a third time, and Samuel got up and he went to Eli. And he said, here I am, you called me. Then Eli realized that the Lord was calling the boy. So Eli told Samuel, go and lie down. And remember, the word of the Lord is very rare. Eli's not heard anything in a long time. Now he figures out what's happening. So God's not talking to Eli. He's talking to this little boy. Go and lie down, verse 9. And if he calls you again, say, speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. So so Samuel went and he lay down in his place. And the Lord came and stood there and calling as he did the other times, Samuel, Samuel. And then Samuel said, speak, for your servant is listening. Not a lot of people are listening in this society. It doesn't take much to be shocked by what you find on the news. If you lose it for a day or two, you come back and go, what happened? Riots in the streets. Missed one night. I'd rather miss 1,000 nights and not have those things. But so much is happening. And so few are listening. It's so important that we listen. But it's just as easy that we can be found forgetting to listen. Now let's tie all this back to what we were talking about this morning in God's plan. Taking a look at Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 1. That great potential just barely drifted. Not being aware that you weren't fastened to the Lord, that your ship was anchored. Chapter 2, verse 1. We must pay more careful attention, NIV says, or heed, to the things we have heard, lest we drift. Our motto maybe should be, a post-it note maybe should be made for some of us, as a reminder to have our ears attuned to God's Word. Speak, Lord. This servant is listening. And what a difference it will make. What an anchor it will be. For those that are in the breakout groups, we'll be talking about some of those things a little bit more and what we can do to sharpen that ability, to not drift, to not do other things, and to be strong with the Lord, and to help others to do that. That's what we're about as God's people. That's what we are called to live and called to do for others. Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. So we close this short lesson with just an invitation as always. Because you never know who in the audience has a tremendous need for prayer or to get their life right. Are you listening? There was a fellow back years ago named V.E. Howell. He was on radio speaking night after night after night. People wrote in on occasion. And he always started off his lesson with the Lord speaking. Are you listening? Are you listening? We invite you to come, if you need to, tonight while we stand.